Live. Can you hear us, Bella?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. Right on. That's good. That's what we want. How many beehives you have?
Right now I have 8.
Where are you located?
Central Arizona.
Right on. So you're mostly looking for your summers to be a little cooler.
Correct, yes.
Right on. So you have 8 beehives. How long have you had them?
These 8 beehives, probably a couple years. I've been beekeeping for 10, 11 years now. I'm in Central Arizona where our bees have gotten Africanized.
Okay.
So they're a whole new breed to deal with.
Right on. What kind of suit are you wearing?
A Africanized Bee Suit, the 3-layered ones. Have you seen them?
Yeah, you've got a ventilated one, huh? That has the mesh
Right.
on each side
Yeah.
and the netting in the center.
Yeah, I thought it would be cooler in 109 degrees, but it's actually not. So I choose between wearing it and sweating and being 125 in there, or wearing my cotton one and getting more stings.
So super cool idea, right? I'm going to help you out with that. And
Uh-huh.
it sounds jacked up, but I want you to get a rain gear suit, right? A rain suit.
Okay.
And you get one that has pants and a top, and you put the pants, just go ahead and put on bathing suit underneath this, right? Because it's going to still be hot. And when you put your rubber boots on, you tape the rubber boots to the pants, you tape the jacket to the pants, and you get all in there. And then you have somebody down on one of your pant legs stick a shop vac or a leaf blower in there. It blows air inside there constantly. Right, so now you have a suit that can't get stung through, and it kind of puffs up like one of them blow-up samurai Halloween kind of things, but they can't sting through it. And what it does is it constantly blows air out and over your face, so it constantly blows the bees off your front of your face. So if you put the rain jacket on, put your hood over it, you got this thing on, it's blowing air across your face, and it'll keep you cooler because it's constantly blowing air up and through your legs, not your backs, because everything else is taped up. So it's going to keep your front of your face. So you're going to keep cooler, and you're going to keep no stings because it's a rubber suit. So you're going to be able to go right in there, right? And it's going to be blowing air, so the bees are going to come at your face. It's just going to keep blowing that out in front of you, so they won't be sticking on there very long, because it's going to keep blowing air up from you, so you'll keep cooler, and you'll be able to work the bees a little bit better in your area because you're going to keep cool, and you won't have to worry about getting stung as much.
How am I going to keep constant air when I'm out in a bee field?
So you take the shop vac and you stick it up the pant leg, and a shop vac can either suck or blow.
Right.
So you can either take a generator. Some of our bee fields have solar panels because we have solar heating for winter.
Okay.
Right? So we have electricity. You can get an inverter, plug it into your battery bank of your car and your plug-in for your lighter. And then you just run a shop vac or a leaf blower, and the leaf blower just keeps blowing air up into you.
Okay.
So you're constantly just have this little hose. Right, I understand it. Like I said, it sounds odd because when you move, you got to move the shop vac with you.
Right.
But the whole deal is that you'll stay a lot cooler and a lot calmer knowing that you're not going to get the shit stung out of you.
Okay. Yeah, the heat is the worst problem than getting stung.
Yeah, so I would just try to pump the air, right? Use a shop vac, use a leaf blower. They even make battery-operated bee suits. They come from India. They're extremely expensive. It's the same concept. They have fans in the front, 2 locations, and 1 big fan on the back. And what it does is it's constantly sucking air in from the outside and blowing it on the inside, blowing it up. So they kind of puff up a little bit and stuff. But they're made in India, and they're a ventilated bee suit. And it's made for hot locations, just for that. So that's you can look at those, but like I said, a cheap one is just to use a shop vac or a leaf blower and get something that's going to kind of hold the air a little bit and kind of puff up, to keep it away from you. The other thing, have you been pulling out queens and requeening as you go to try to reduce the Africanization?
Yeah, we have. This year I've been requeening with brood from my Italian hives. So that's been a lot easier, simpler way of requeening. So I'm constantly requeening. If I get a swarm or do a relocation, I immediately take the queen out and then introduce a new.
Excellent job.
Brood.
Excellent job, right? That's going to control that. The swarming, you know, after the bees start making queens, the breeding capability is extremely hard to control unless you're doing insemination in your area. Because as soon as the queens go and whatever's out, they're getting, right?
Right.
So it's hard to control breeding aspects unless you're doing what we call castling and netting. And that's where you get like, man, you get big tents like circus tents. Get the beehives in the circus tent, and when the queens come out to fly, the drones, and they're all in the tent. So there's only what you breed and getting specific lines that way, but that's expensive. Your best bet is to always ship in from a direct breeder that you know from, that you're going to get, like if you're using Italians or Carlonians or something like that, because Africanization is hard, especially in your area, and breeding capabilities. So you're definitely going to be ordering your queens from a new location so you can control that nastiness.
Right. Yeah, it was killing me requeening in the cost, so that's why I started this other way of queening. I know they get out and they get, there's a lot of drones, but I've lost so many Italian hives when I first started beekeeping that I would think that there's a big base of those out there. Plus the little bit of Africanized that I have really good mite-resistant bees.
I bet you do.
Never seen a beetle.
They kind of chop them in half and spin them out on the ground, don't they?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. So a little bit of Africanization awesome. Isn't bad.
Yeah, I like, I actually went to Oklahoma and I traded a guy for Africanized drones. So I took male breeding genetics back to Wyoming, and I put those in my nook boxes, and those drones were being fed by my Russian bees. And so when the drones saw queens, I was able to kind of see how many drones I had when I brought them and see how many died through breeding. And I ended up putting a little bit of Africanized line inside my Russian bees for that same reason. Super hygienic. I mean, that's very, very hard to find anybody that has an African line that has any types of mites. They eat them. They chew. They actually just take their little mandibles and split them right in half.
Yeah.
When they see them, they're extremely aggressive and mad about it, which is kind of cool because they kind of hop and stuff trying to get to them. So, yeah, I don't, you know, if you're breeding your own and you're reducing the capability of what you're looking for, you're doing great. What are you looking for in winterizing your hives? Or are you looking for the opposite? Are you looking for ventilation and cooling off in the summer? I mean, you're in Arizona. You could go either way depending on how your season is.
Yeah, and my winters last year, I overwintered everybody real well. I just wanted to see you and hear what you had to say today.
Oh, right on. When it comes to summer, are you using screen bottom boards?
No, I didn't this year. I just bought some so I'd have them. But what I did is I drilled about 1.25 inch hole in all my boxes, and then put window screen on. And I had real good, apparently, ventilation. I was the only person I know in the area in the whole state that didn't have a lot of bearding and stuff going on. So I think just that little bit of ventilation really made an extremely positive difference.
Excellent. Yeah, and another thing is that if you're putting those holes in the boxes, you can take and drill a hole in your top lid, put a cork on it, and if you ever see bearding or anything, on the bottom part of the lid, put screen. And then if you ever want airflow, you just pull the cork off. Heat rises, causing the hive itself to turn into a flue. So it goes right out through that hole, pulling air directly in faster, immediate cool off. It's almost like putting an AC unit in.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're going to get the flue system from the heat rising. It's going to do an updraft, and you're going to start getting more cooling capability through that. And that'll help you too. And that way you don't have to do electricity or run computer fans. Some guys in all the way, I have some guys in the Baja area of California, down by San Pedro, and of course Silicon Valley. They're getting computer fans and they're putting them in the tops of the hives to do the same thing. They're actually drawing air in and out, not blowing air in with the fans, but sucking air out of the hives, causing draft and climate change inside the hive. So if you look for climate change and stuff like that, you can do stuff like that too.
Yeah, I also froze gallon water jugs in my whole freezer. I had one freezer full of gallon water jugs, and every day at 12, I go out and put these gallon jugs on all my hives. I go back out of dark, put them in the freezer, and I did that when the heat was getting like it was like 105 here for weeks and weeks.
Did you get bees resting on the milk jugs trying to drink the dew from the
No, I didn't.
I just wondered on the heat like that. I was wondering, because I would take spaghetti noodles, like your pool noodles.
Oh, yeah, I do that too.
And you fill those up, you put a sprinkler in it, and the cold water makes that whole thing, and the bees will just fly all over that spaghetti noodle because it's just a saturated sponge. And cool water. So I used to put that by the kids' pool in Arizona, and then a little fish pump. So the fish pump would pump out of the kiddie pool, down the spaghetti noodle, and back in the kiddie pool, and just kind of circulate water so they wouldn't be drowning in the kiddie pool, but they'd have this spongy spaghetti noodle that they'd land on and go in the holes and all the stuff. And for that, water in Arizona is huge for bees. I mean, they're going to find, I bet your neighbor's swimming pool will just love you.
Oh, I don't have any neighbors or swimming pools, so I'm good here.
So what are you doing for remote watering then?
I have I'm on an acre near the forest, and I have an irrigation around my house for my gardens and my herbs, and where my irrigation tubes come out, I have little bowls and buckets and things, and then I put those little noodles in, so every day I have water that goes off twice a day, so my bees should be sticking around here with the water supply.
Well, you're doing good. Man, you're controlling Africanization. You're learning controlling the heat and temperature climate of your hives. How's your food source?
It's good some of the time. Right now, it's not too good. I don't know what they're eating out there. But they're bringing some pollen in, so they're getting it somewhere, but I don't know what it is. There's no more mesquite. The mesquite's done. The desert wildflowers are about done up here. It's been pretty dry I can't remember when it rained last, 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Right, and all your cactus flowers are July, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so who knows? It might be some sage or some ground floral that they're finding along the way. Just as long as, are you weighing your beehives? Are you taking the time to weigh your beehives to check to see climate and loss?
No, I haven't done that.
One thing to start checking is through the year, go ahead and right now is a good time to weigh your beehive. And that tells you like what your ending weight is for the year. And then that way, you know that you don't have any honey flow from now until, let's say, January. Right? You can actually weigh your beehives and see if the bees are eating a constant amount of food source. So if your bees are weighing 80 pounds and in 9 to 11 days you check them and they weigh 70 pounds, they're losing weight either from eating the food that's residual in the hive or the bees are dying. If you come back in 9 to 11 days and you see they went from 70 to 60, you can see what we call constant decline, and it's a regular decline rate. So basically it's not showing decline of bee death, it's showing food source, because bee death would change variable on temperature, food supply, and everything. If you're seeing variable losses that I lost 3 pounds and I lost 7 pounds and lost 10 pounds and then lost 3 pounds again, it's the bee cluster dying off and not necessarily the food source, because the food source would be constant by the number of bees. The bee colony of 80,000 bees will eat roughly 3 pounds of bee food per day if there is no residual food in the hive and no nectar flow. So 80,000 bees is 3 pounds of honey. If you want to calculate that all the way down to your original package bees where you're getting 3 pounds of bees, which is 10,000, you could do that calculation and you could actually see decline of bees with no food. So if you don't have any food and you're seeing decline of bees, you can actually calculate over the 9 to 11 days how many bees you actually lose per pound. And if you have food, you can actually calculate how much food you're losing on a constant variable per the 9/11 method as well. Is that all making sense?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So if you do it now, you're going to see what they lose over the winter time. And then if you do it every 9 to 11 days through the summer, you're going to see gain. And you can actually tell if the bees are swarming, they're not going to populate anymore. So if the bees are swarming and you're still getting growth, you've hit nectar flow, right? That's how you can tell that they're producing nectar, is by growth by weight and brood population. Because when they're swarming, they don't really want a lot more brood because they're going to all leave, right? They want the queen to leave brood behind with them and have the next round hatch.
Right.
So
Okay.
if you see queens and stuff like that, they're going to just switch right over, and they're going to go to a whole different measure. All right, so
Okay.
weighing your beehive will do a lot for you as well.
Okay. Alrighty, thanks for that.
Heck yeah. Right on. Hopefully that helped you out on anything that you had.
Did you see what Beewood typed up in the chat?
Beewood. Oh, yeah, I see Beewood.
If you click on the chat button, you should.
Oh, could you put cold ice water in your shop vac and hook it to the exhaust and blow cold air? Most definitely. That's what we were just talking about with the shop vac. Yeah, you could do what they call the 5-gallon bucket swamp cooler, and that's where you take a 5-gallon bucket, drill 2-inch holes around the 5-gallon bucket, line it with the same fabric you would with a swamp cooler, and put in a fountain pump in it. And the fountain pump, you put a little, like a spurging unit from brewing. It's just a tube with holes in it, so it spins inside there. So it pumps and spins and sprays on the fabric, and in those little holes you put a couple fans in it. The fans suck through there, and it makes that whole bucket into a cooling agent. So it's almost like a micro swamp cooler that you've made. And if you hook that onto your shop vac, you're constantly blowing cool air through your shop vac and into your system. So you can either put cold ice in your shop vac or make a swamp cooler unit for it. The object in those extreme temperatures to stay cool, lots of water, lots of hydration. Your bees need water. The beekeeper needs water. Those temperatures can be extreme in some of those areas, and it's not necessarily winterization. It's about climate control and hydration, not only for you but for your bees. So yeah, if you could put ice in your shop vac, you could freeze bandanas, put them on, right?
Yeah.
Kind of cool you down. So I mean, there's some stuff like that that you can do as well. So yeah, if you want to try, try all you want. I mean, I'm in Wyoming, man. I don't have to use the shop vac method. We're winterization here.
How are you weighing the beehives?
Man, there's it's any way you want to do it. There's the tilt method. The tilt method is basically you're going to take a rope and you just going to tilt the beehive, and you're going to actually see if it takes you more this time to lift it than it did last time. There's no direct calculation. It's just that yesterday it was like this, and I was able to lift it. Today it was, oh, Jesus, it's like this. So that's an easy way. You can get a luggage scale. I think the luggage scale method is the easiest. They're compact. You can stick them in your pocket, pack them in your beekeeping kit. You just take your ratchet strap, ratchet down everything, get a step ladder or a little step stool, step above your beehive, hook onto it, and just pull it up. As soon as the beehive starts to lift, look at your numbers. Well, it's not extremely accurate, like 2/10, 220. I mean, but it's going to tell you, hey, I gained 3 pounds from the last inspection. Oh, man, I dropped 5 pounds from the last inspection. It's going to give you that variable of what you're doing. If you want extremely precise stuff, you get yourself a postal scale. And yes, you jack the hive up. You put the postal scale underneath it. You jack the hive down. It's going to give you exact measurements, exact increments. And you're going to find out precisely what you're going to gain, lose, everything. You can get what they call the Hive Track system. It is an electronic system sold by another beekeeping company, and you can put it in your hive, and it does a lot, does temperature control, tells the humidity in the beehive, the weight of the beehive cumulatively. It also has laser beams that you can stick in the front of the beehive, counting the bees as they go in and out. It will tell you how many bees are active. I mean, weighing and tracking like that, it can get as intense as you want. But basically, weighing the beehive, we're calculating to see climb and decline. The object is to see ebb and flow. That I want to see days of dearth where there is nothing, no gain of weight, no loss of weight. It's an eben day, right? But if we have flow, I want to make sure that it's not population growth, because that means I'm making money by selling swarms, or it's flow where I need to add more boxes on for nectar. The weighing of the beehive is a clinical method of calculating if your bees are dying or if they're growing without opening the beehive and disrupting the colony. Colony disruption is one of the biggest losses for beekeepers in their new year. as they go through and they're learning about inspections, and the more time they take is going through the beehive, they kill queens. And as pests, parasites, hive beetle, wax larvae fly around, the more you have the hive open, the more parasitics you introduce into a hygienic hive. So weighing the beehive gets it so you're doing a constant check, a visualization without disruption in the colony and hopefully death to queens and other parasites. That's why you do it.
Cool. Hey, if you don't mind, I was wondering if you could go over some of the documents we just put up on the course for free.
Sure. So the first thing on all your documents, right, is the basic program and winterization that we put in. If you read it and you kind of read it a couple times of what you're looking at, it's the system, right? We base everything on EDGE here at Bee Friendly Company, right? We educate you. So we shoot out like, I may not write all the information, but I have a library that's probably vast and I have connections all over. So if I can find the information out of a book, I'll tell you the book and I'll tell you the page. There's no sense you buying the book, but I'm giving you full reference of where it came from and who wrote it. So I'll give full credit to the people that did it. But there's no sense in me rewriting the same information that many people put out. The object is to put it out there. So education would give you any type of information, either websites, book learning, pamphlets, diagrams, posters. We try to educate you what you can. So that's the first thing in all this is you're going to read information and you're going to educate yourself on the system, right? The BDC is a beekeeping design course, meaning that you're going to design your own course and the systems are going to be listed and you're going to take this system and in that system there'll be like queening, the system of queen rearing. You're going to see the Miller method, you're going to see the inline method, you're going to see a graft method, you're going to see a hole punch method. That's the queening system. You do a couple of them, you find what queening system works good for you, you implement that in your beekeeping design course. So you're writing your own course based on different systems that work for you in your area. So we're throwing that education at you. Then what you're going to see is a series of videos, or you can come onto our live classes. You can come to the PermaEthos Center if we're there. We have other locations that we're starting up that are bee-friendly sites, one in Texas, one in Colorado, one in Ohio. So we have other locations. This is the demonstration part. So either you're going to watch us do it live on the videos like you see here on this program, where you're going to see us implement those, right? And then, or you'll go to a course and see us implement what you've read on the education. Then you're going to go for it. Go for it. All this stuff that you've seen here that we do, I want you to implement it. And I want you to then see which parts work good for you. And then it's the last part, the EDGE method, which is on all these forums. When you go to the Thrive Network, all these poster boards and stuff, it's the evaluation. Tell us what worked good for you. Tell others what works good for you. Tell us what didn't work good for you. Have others tell you what failed on the parts that they used. And eventually you'll find out, like in certain areas, fondant cake works really good in the wintertime. In some areas, fondant cake doesn't work good in the winter times. We need a more liquid feed. You're going to find those demographics by this evaluation method. So if you look at these sheets that we have here, right, so we're going to go, let's see here. You got Beekeepers Course 1A. Let's see that preview. Can you show that first preview, Josiah?
The guidebook?
Yeah, the 1A, yeah. And I think this is the part that I think that is going to get more of you interested into seeing the particulars of why the course works. Is that you're working with your system, right? So you've seen the beginning or bees for me and blah, blah, blah. Basically, you're keeping bees and now you want to winterize them. This book right here is the first beekeeper's book. It's a beekeeper's guide by A.J. Cook, right? So we've thrown this in, and this is going to give you, this is a good time right now to go through and prep your information. When we talked about the ability for you to educate yourself, over the winter months, this is the time where you read your books, you read your laws, you try to incline yourself with information. That way you have questions. Everybody has a different system of beekeeping, and this one was written a very, very long time ago.
1902, it says, is when
So
it's
it's going to
published.
give you an aspect of like, so I started out and I'm reading the Beekeepers for Dummies. Read this and compare how we're doing things from back then till now. That's why that's in there, is it's going to give you something of the history of beekeeping. The history of beekeeping has a lot to do with your chronicle knowledge of how you're going to beekeep. That's why we talk about history in the first parts of beekeeping, because people change words, people change photos, people change things, and the original work and some of the archaic stuff is lost by one word. The Pledge of Allegiance is the best thing. People spout the Pledge of Allegiance all the time and no have an idea that each word in that means something. I, the individual, me. So I mean, when we were giving you an old representation to compare with some new representation. Let's see, what's the next one here? It's the Integrated Hive Management for Colorado beekeepers. Now this is free off the internet. This is written by the Colorado UC Colorado. This is the entomology department from Colorado State University. Now there is a lot of books out there on mites and hive beetles and stuff. This book right here is written by the university, and it specifically goes through everything from the smallest to bears. How to recognize them, how to treat them, how to prevent them. And if you're using our system of beekeeping, you're going to go through your beehive, and you should have read this book and got some general information in your head. What mites look like, what hive beetles look like, what wax moth looks like. So we've given you a college book off the internet. I mean, you could look it up yourself, but we were able to put it right in there for you. Read that a little bit, get integrated with the types of pests that you have in your hive. So when you're going through, and we're talking about, I'm downsizing, going through my brood section and pest inspection, I've already got a little mindset by looking at some photos, what I'm looking at here. So as I'm looking at this, I'm able to kind of compare. So using a great integrated book of pest management is better than reading any other book where it just covers some stuff about pest management, what they are. Unless you're getting really in deep and taking a course from Montana, UC Davis in California, Ohio, Pennsylvania. I mean, there's many colleges are now developing their entomology courses to go more to beekeeping because it's such a big demand, and their pest management skills are more in depth. They're more in depth than your local beekeepers, conferences, as well as organizations, because you only have so much time to sit and talk with people when you go to a group meeting. So with this book, and then watching us go through the videos a couple times, you're going to get it antiquated in your head what you're looking for in your area. And that's something very important, because in my area I don't have hive beetles. It's too cold for larvae and stuff to generate and manifest in my area for a hive beetle. So I'm not really really in depth in looking in hive beetle. In my area I look heavily in wax larva and wax moth. Everything for preventative of putting lights up with strips to catch them at night, for natural preventative methods, to solar inoculation when I see worms and larvae, to saran wrap and gassing if I see full out breaks. The only reason I know what I'm doing is because I've taken the book and I'm experimenting for my area of what I'm doing, and I'm looking through those management courses in that book on how to prevent, inoculate, and maintain. Now I know what I'm looking for. I think that book's very important in this set. Pest management is something that people lack. We're not teaching beekeepers inspection methods anymore. We say every 9 to 11 days you need to do an inspection, and people are like, what am I looking for? What are you looking for? You need to find those things out. You should be looking for your pests. You should be looking for colony size, active motion, brood laying capability. Did you find the queen at all? The aggressiveness of the bees, that's all part of that list that we also supply, you should be, take your phone out, turn it on record, video, audio, it doesn't matter. You're not there to see the beehive unless the record's good, because if you do see something, you can grab your phone and kind of shift in and look at the beehives and the frames. But I hit record and I always go record, and I don't have a documentation when I got gloves on or a pencil. I just sit there and I go, okay, hive 14, upper brood box, frame A7. Honey pattern looks good, full frame. I might use that one in the switchover. Frame 6, no brood pattern, no honey. This will be a removal. I just talk to myself as I go through. I'm doing my hive check at this time. I'm downsizing. And when I get back to the house, I go and I write all those things in my notebook across. And as I'm going across, I'm also looking from the notes from my last bee inspection to integrate when I update my notes. When you go out to a bee yard, you should have read your notes before you left, knowing which hives you requeened, which ones you put the red thumbtack on, which ones have the green thumbtack on. When was the next 9/11 method that you used? What was the height? What was the nectar flow on the jars? These are things that I'm talking about. A lot of people don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. But when you're going out and you're doing these inspections, if you're listing these things and you're checking your nectar flows, your brood patterns, and stuff like that, before you go out, you're going to be able to say, oh, hive 13, I remembered I'm supposed to go through and make sure my queens that I put in hatched. Because if you're just going haphazardly out there to do a hive inspection, you're going to flip a hive and go, oh, yeah, this is the one I put the queens in. Right? You got to kind of do a dry run. I do a dry run with my keepers and my kids that I go and work out. We set up a beehive. All right, today we're going to go out and work the bees, right? Hive 13, right? Had the pollen trap on it, so make sure you guys are taking the pollen traps off and checking them. Hive 19 smelled bad. I don't know if it's this time of season. I got goldenrod in some areas, boys. Check to see if it's goldenrod or see if it's unhatched larva. If it's unhatched larva, let's start pulling it because we don't want foul brood. So I'm reviewing my notes, and as I review my notes, I might go ahead and we're going to go ahead. I got 4 hives that we're going to go ahead and graft out of. So I want you to pull these frames out. So then we open up a hive. It has nothing in it. We do a dry run. This is the frames we're looking for. These are the queen cells I'm looking for, okay? Or we're going to look for these. I want brand new larvae. If you see them, pull them over to the tent. I'm going to pull them out. I'm going to start grafting them in the cells so you guys can take them immediately back to the hives. By looking at the systems beforehand, working them a little bit beforehand, you'll find out, shit, I forgot my hive tool. How do I know? Because I just did a dry run before we went out. I forgot my hive tool. I forgot my grafting rod. You know what? We forgot to mix the bee feed. Why? Because we just did the dry run, and I'm saying add the bee feed, and you looked over at me and go, shit, we forgot to make it much. I mean, doing the dry run, looking at your notes, beekeeping is an odd hobby. It's not like stamp collecting where you got a logbook of what you're looking for, what you're looking to sell, making collections. It's taking the full agricultural business and putting it way down into a small hobby beekeeper. A small hobby beekeeper, right? Because putting the bees in the box and leaving them there is okay, as long as you don't care what happens. You don't care if your neighbors call you up about getting stung because of the Africanization. You don't care if other beekeepers come over and give you a lawsuit because your mite infection is so bad it got into theirs. You don't care that it's got Africanized or American foul brood and it dies and you don't have bees for 3 years. You don't care. That's your type of beekeeping skills. You're not one, right? But I mean, does it matter? No, until you affect those other people. Now, if you're checking and you're doing your notes taking and all your stuff, you're keeping and harvesting the bees. Now, if you went from backyard to hobbyist, you're looking to make that investment more. That I've got these bees and I've got a good investment in them. I need to start turning around and make some money or my wife's going to kick my ass for having all this crap. So you went from a backyard beekeeper to hobby, where the hobby makes you a little money. Farmers markets, I sell some to a couple friends. You might go even bigger. You went from 25 hives, now you're up to 500. You're looking for pollen contract. Those documentation skills go all the way back to, like I said, that first beekeeper. If you're not doing those documentations, you're just that one guy at the very beginning. You don't care. You don't know. You're not really having the bee. You should have just left them in the tree. Document what you're doing, because pest control, swarming, the bees' attitude. I talked about the red and green thumbtacks. When you go out and do a spec, if the hive's really aggressive, put a red thumbtack on it. You know, you're going to do on a 9/11 method of checking. That's 3 checks a month. Basically, if you got 3 red spikes on your hive, that's 3 strikes, you're out. In 1 month, I can see that you're not adjusting and becoming nice. I've worked with you guys now every 9 to 11 days. You got a red thumbtack. Every time you get a red thumbtack, eventually the queen's gone. I'm splitting that hive. I'm breaking you all up. We're starting anew. Right? But I have to put the thumbtacks on there. I have to put that in my documentation. I'm just going to go out and my bees are going to sting the shit out of me, and I'm going to have more Africanized bees infesting more hives. Documentation is key. We put that sheet in there. So in there, there's all different kinds of stuff on winterization, from just quick little books that are kind of cool, like the beginning book. Compare it to some of the new books and see if there's things being left out. Maybe broaden your mind for more questions. There's documentation sheets in there so you can get into learning how to use a DANET documentation. Man Lake. Maybe you have a West Virginia Beekeeper Association. Start losing your documentation sheets. We put in some for you. All that stuff's in there to enhance your beekeeping. And it only enhances if you use it or implement it. I can't force you to do it. It's just like when people call me and say, hey, Michael, I'm having this problem. If you would email me your documentations over the last maybe 4 inspections, a couple photos of what you're looking at, I could probably diagnose your hive pretty good. I've got the analytical information. But if you're calling me and I say, well, on your sheet, what was the honey flow okay? Well, I didn't take any. Can't help you. I'm not there. I'm not the beekeeper. I can't help you. But when you have those notes, boy, I can really jump in. I can really help you, because I can look at your notes and you're looking what I'm seeing, and we can kind of manifest a plan to help you combat a problem or grow your operation or start an operation. Documentation is key. And all that information, all those pamphlets and all that stuff is going to help you learn to put all that down so that you can grow as a better beekeeper. That's the whole purpose of this, is to grow as a better beekeeper.
Hey, Sandra, you typed in a couple of questions. Do you want to just ask them to Mike, or do you want him to read them off? She's muted. You're muted. Okay. I'll go ahead and read them for you. So Sandra says, advice for overwintering a long bar hive on sawhorse style stand for similar to Wyoming conditions, straw bales, or should I take it into shed?
Okay. Any type of winterization, if you're going to move the bees to a shed, the shed has to have a high enough roof, because the bees are going to fly out and they're going to want to go in the air. So you need a high enough roof for them to get them in. And you got to remember, sheds are hard to work with, because as soon as the temperatures get warm enough for the bees fly out, if it's too cold outside the hive, they fly right out and they call flash freeze. So if you have them in a shed, the core of the bees will be 98 degrees, human temperature, right, fluctuating to kill pests, or drop to cluster. When the temperatures of the clustering part of the bees drop below 98 to 94, they get harder and they get harder, and then they won't fly off to eat. But if the beehive itself is 45, the cluster stays at that temperature, allowing them to come out and eat. If the beehive gets over 45, that means the bees are extremely active inside. They've eaten, they've got to poop, they got to drink, and they're going to go outside. So if the temperatures outside the beehive are not 45, the bees will fly out into your shed, flash freeze, and die. So you got to keep the temperature in the shed at a accommodated temperature, because if the bees are working, they're going to work inside that shed. So that also means you got to have a water source and a food source inside that hive if you're not feeding them fondant or residual liquid feed. So inside moving is cool. When we traffic bees, we would put them in potato cellars in Idaho. So before you got them to California, Actually, right now the potato bins in Idaho right now. You're getting inoculations and inspections before you cross over to California for the almond run in California for January. So people do move them in storage sheds. Just got to make sure that the temperatures are going to be where the bees can work, or keep it cold enough where the bees will only stay inside that hive, just like they were outside. Now, you're talking about a long hive, right? Super cool way to do it is call up some construction companies, find out if they have concrete blankets that they're not using anymore and destroyed. Go to Salvation Army stores, look for sleeping bags, right? Anything that you could just wrap over that and zip closed, right? Just lift up one end, lift up the other, zip up a sleeping bag, cover it with a tarp, a garbage bag. Keeps it so the sleeping bag won't absorb moisture and freeze on the outside. Now you've got an insulated blanket with an opening in the front, unless you're using a side marker hive. Side marker hive is a long tabletop hive with the most top bar hives, Kenyas, and everything openings on one end. But if you have an opening on this side, you got to remember that you want to wrap it so they can still come in and out for breathing and air access. So, long hive on sawhorses. I have one at my house. Well, we have two methods. One is we put hay bales on each side, and then we went ahead and put a tarp over the top of it with a sleeping bag and a tarp. And that way it's got insulation all the way around, and it works really good. One problem is with hay bales, it draws ants and mice. So you're going to have to do some combative measures for that. The other thing that's really cool, his name is JD. He lives just outside of town here. He has a thermal cube. He's plugged an electrical cord on this thermal cube. The thermal cube turns on when the temperatures are 30 degrees. He's then taken a heat pad for his back, and he's put it right on the side of the beehive and wrapped it with saran wrap. He says he's not opening it anyway. He's put fondant pan in there. So I'm not sure how you're winterizing your hive. If it's 32 frames, I'm usually taking out the back 7, which is usually honey. I put in my divider board in, reducing the space for warmth. And then I put in a fondant tray, and in my little breaker board, I have a little hole where the bees can go out and into this fondant tray. And then I put a heating pad on the fondant tray and a heating pad on the side of the beehive. And what happens is the beehive now will constantly stay warm. If they're eating the residual from the downsized space that I made, where I took the honey out and I downsized them, there's a little hole in the tray of fondant sitting here on a heat pad. I use fondant, not liquid. That way the bees will go in the winter. They can chew on the warm fondant, but they won't drown any liquid feed. Go back over to where the colony is. So on a long hive, I'm downsizing according to the program. I'm checking for food. If there isn't enough, I put residual inside, and then putting a heating pad on the side, wrapping with saran wrap. That way the heat pad doesn't get wet and cold, but it generates heat on the hive, keeping the colony of the hive at that 98 and the temperature hive at 45. Let's see, straw bales. Yeah, I'd use them or take them into a shed. Remember moving them and rocking them, right? Top bars hard. Remember, you move them or adjust them, they fall. I understand it's going to get cold, and hopefully they've stuck to the sides a little bit when you move them. But if you move them, make sure the temperature in the shed is accountable for the bees to work, because if they get too hot in the hive and come out, you get flash freeze. $70 includes your USB. Everything that's on the thumb drive is in this program, except for you're not getting the rosewood hive method, and you're not getting my CBD cannabis mead recipe. So if you ordered the thumb drive for me, you're getting the exact same program that you're getting here, except for that you're going to get my cannabis mead recipe, and you get the Irish rose hive method of beekeeping. One you can get from me, and you can look up the Irish rose method, order their book. It's a great method of beekeeping, but that's the only difference for the thumb drive. So you can just get what you got here, or I could probably, if you email me, I could probably hook you up with some stuff. I'm pretty cool like that.
The document.
What's that?
So the like the rose hive method, that's documentation that comes with the course. But you're saying the USB drive doesn't have that?
The USB drive has the rose hive method.
Oh, it does have it. Okay.
Is that listed on your course here?
Yep, you
You have the
got it
rose.
in there. I
Did
don't know if you have the CVD one.
yeah. See, I think there's just on the thumb drive. What it did is I travel and I teach this course that you just took here for Permaethos. I teach this course live. So everything that you're seeing here, the videos and stuff you see, if you took the course with me, it would be live course. And then we sell you the thumb drive. And what the thumb drive does is that when you take this course, if you videoed the course while we did it, and you take the thumb drive, basically it's the exact same thing for the Permaethos, because you've got all the information from the thumb drive and you got the videos at Permaethos and you put them together. Same thing. If you bought the thumb drive and came to my course, you videoed the course and used the thumb drive. For Permaethos, it's all listed in the course and it's already got the videos included. That's just the difference, right? Is the difference between buying the thumb drive from me and taking a course or taking this, right? Is that everything's in one and you don't have to do the videoing. He did it for you.
Did all your answers get or your questions get answered, Sander? Okay, is this covered in your books?
The winterization, everything you get here is the first part of this. It's called A1 reading, and it talks about the system of beekeeping. That is the whole book of winterization that's in this course. In fact, it's 2 books in one. The first part of the book is the system. Oh, you know, beekeeping's been around for 1 billion years. Bees have winterized themselves. We have problems, right? So that whole thing goes through and talks about it, and then it goes through step 1. When you see the culling of the bees, you know that the winterization needs to start. Step 2, if you see the culling of the bees, we might as well go ahead and start the new hive setup. New bottom board, either flipping it. So yeah, everything's in there. Everything in that book for this system is in this program. Yes, ma'am. And if you have any questions or anything that's in there, you have our email address. If there's nothing that's not clear in there, you tell me. Right? I want to get it to you so it's clear.
Here's the list of all the stuff in the course. This is the curriculum. And you can just find it at learn.permaethos.com and click the winterization course. So there's quite a bit of documentation, the videos. You have a building open mesh floors document here on the first section.
Building, yeah, so you build your mesh floors. It shows you how to build those screen bottom boards. That way if you want to buy them, you can make your own. There's a quick overview presentation, right? That's the one that shows the online PowerPoint presentation, showing you that of what you're looking at for the system. If you would here, it says the heating of your hive, right? The quilting box. The video shows you in depth of how we build that quilting box with the feeding tube in it, right? The feeding tube has been a lifesaver for beekeepers from Alaska down to Colorado. That being able to measure fondant and stuff in a feeding tube has been incredible. So the quilting box for heating. We talk about insulation and airflow. The heating for luminescence, right? We show you the easy bake oven method, and it's all in there so you can build your own easy bake oven, right, to heat your hives. Everything in there is in documentation form. You should be able to go through it extremely easy, from feeding, the additional learning material down at the bottom, making your winter wraps. Those are poster boards. The Dannett Hive inspection sheet. Oh, there it is. Rosewood Hive method. Man, that's free at the bottom, man. That explains everything about the medium box use and ventilation method from Ireland. Super.
Well, it's not free. You gotta that's not one of the previews items, so you gotta buy the course.
No, you gotta buy it. But I mean, that's an add-on that's it broadens your mind on, like, I don't know. Have you ever heard of Perone beekeeping? Have you ever heard of Excock or concrete beekeeping? Those are hives made out of concrete. They spray them with water, keeps the hive moist and cool. They're an interesting design that people are using. A Perone hive is a huge box where we elevate the comb. It's almost like weir, where you've got a natural comb build on the frames, but as the comb builds down, we lift the whole box up, sliding another box under, letting the combs drop. When the combs get to the bottom, you raise it all, so the combs can be at 40 feet long, as tall as you want to make this box. That's prone beekeeping. It's made that the mites fall and the mites can't jump back in the comb. So, I mean, the rosewood method is to open your mind that we're taking this Langstriff method of beekeeping, downsizing it, changing airflow and the dynamics of beekeeping. So it's to try to shock you a little bit into a new type of beekeeping to see if there's other ways that might work better for you as a beekeeper. That you might be a Langstriff beekeeper and change all the way to hybrid beekeeping and go Weir or Echo or EcoBach is extremely cool. That's a whole nother beekeeping thing that we might put another program by Albert Korbachek out of Utah. Super cool. Right, so it was just another way to broaden your mind and get kind of questions flowing. Like, this guy's talking about forced ventilation. What the hell does that mean? It's just to try to open your mind to make you an interesting and cool beekeeper. Totally.
Cooper says he has a question. Go ahead, Cooper.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you bet. You bet.
All right, cool. I built 2 quilting boxes over the last week. One I got put on last Tuesday. I went out there today just kind of taking a look around. I popped the top off the feeding tube. I have one of the lids on there right now, and I noticed a decent amount of condensation building up in that tube. It's like hitting the cool air above the quilting boxes, like obviously hitting the warm air inside and causing that condensation to form.
So how high is your tube above your quilting box? That's going to get cold air across the top of it.
Yeah.
The other thing is that when you put your cap on it, you can always drill 3/8" holes around the tube cap. And now that's also like on your smoker unit or on your grill. You can adjust that to let airflow go up and through. So you can even, if you're getting condensation, that means that the bees are getting really hot and it's cold outside. You can even just turn that just a little bit and make a break and let the air out at the top. Right? So you can break it out a little bit. Or you may need to drill a couple more holes on the side of the wood chip box itself to let it pull more air through the wood chips. The wood chips may be too packed, and it's just easier for it to draw water in that tube than it is for the air to flow through the holes and through the wood chips. Is that making sense?
Yeah, I got you.
Right, so I think if you either maybe drill maybe one more hole, or maybe kind of just sack around a little bit and get the wood chips loosened up, see if the air flows out those holes.
Yeah, I packed it in there decently. I put quite a few wood chips in there. It's pretty full, so I didn't pack it real loose. And I've got 3 holes on either side, on both long edges. Now the second one I built, I did 4 holes on either side.
Are you seeing a difference then? Are you seeing you haven't added it yet, you said. You hadn't added
it. I just finished that one today, so it'll be going out to I have 2 hives. That'll be going to the other one tomorrow.
Okay. And let me know.
But I'll try the vent thing with the cap. I like that.
Help. See if packing it different. Might have to loosen the packing up a little bit to let the wood. The wood chips are going to absorb.
Yeah.
Right. If there's any warm and moisture, the wood chips will absorb. But if the air's not flowing through them, they won't absorb nothing. And it's going to another location is all. So I try to open up the ventilation a little bit more and loosen up the wood chips a little bit. See if you can get air going through those wood chips a little bit more, and see if that helps you with that condensation in that tube.
Yeah. Another question I had off of that subject, sorry, unless you had something else to add.
No, go right ahead, man.
I just got one of my hives just has a regular bottom board, just a typical bottom board. The other one, the one that has the quilting box right now, has a screen bottom board. I went ahead and just bought one because I didn't feel like building it. But it has basically that little kind of a plastic tray underneath the
mite check thing.
Yeah,
grid on it and stuff. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't have a grid. It doesn't. I don't have the sticky thing. I don't have the mite check thing on there. It's just basically the plastic kind of board. But I was trying to figure out what I want to do as far as because I don't have like a landing box. I don't have one of the boxes underneath it yet. So I was looking at what, should I put some insulation underneath, or should I just try and build one of the boxes underneath with the light thing? Or
got another hive bottom or another hive box?
yeah, I've got the bottom I pulled off of it, the other
So
bottom.
can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay, so you have your screen bottom board. Just lift it up and then stick another hive bottom underneath it. Fill that hive bottom full of newspaper.
Okay, just that
Right.
space. Yeah, that's
now you've got even another insulation barrier down there that you know that's not letting air get across that plastic board.
Yeah.
Right? You're getting a pocket in there until you can make a heating box. What's your temperatures like out in the wintertime?
Well, I'm in near Kansas City in Missouri, so I mean we get down to single digits or 0, but you know it's just hit or miss up here.
So here's another cool thing: is if you got a thermal imager, you can actually take your thermal imager and you can shoot it at the quilting box and actually see the heat come out. Just
Nice.
like an air conditioning company does. They can see oh, you're losing heat here, right? You'll be able to see the heat come out of that quilting box through those holes. So you can see that through the thermal imaging, and that's going to help you adjust the airflow through that box a little bit better. The other thing is that screen bottom board, most of them come with that little plastic thing in it. We leave it in, and then I also cut a piece of cardboard, and I try to wedge it in there too. And that way the plastic and then the cardboard, and that way I've got, you know, that way it's not so loose in there. Or I even cut a piece of masonite, just take that whole piece out and put a whole piece of new masonite in there. That way it's a little thicker, a little heavier unit. So
yeah, I was thinking about that. Yeah, and I've got some of that pink insulation board too. I could maybe cut a rectangle out of that, and it'd probably fit in there too.
Sure, and the other thing is like, so now you're talking about that. This is the other part. It's like you got a house, and they've got that foam board that they put on a house. Cut that the same size as that box, and just or that screen bottom board, and just set the foam underneath it.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the same.
That's what I was kind of thinking about doing. I thought that would work real well, and
Another cool thing that we just found out over this last time, I'm introducing it at the University of Wyoming's Bee College this year, is I've worked with an individual that has a solar panel, and we've built the Stephen Harris battery backup generator in a cooler that runs off the solar panel. And they make these chicken nester panels that you can stick in your chicken coop, and that way when the chicken's nesting, it kind of keeps the nest form. They're a nesting pad. We're going to try those this year. It's a black nesting pad. We're going to throw those on the bottom and see if that'll generate enough heat to kind of warm up the bottom to convection up and do heating. So if you want to, you know, like so we're using Easy Bake Oven. That's another little thing that we're going to try is that chicken heating pad. It's a nesting heating pad. You can do the sides of the box with the heat pads. I've seen guys now taking the thermal ribbon that you wrap around water pipe and heat up. I've seen them wrapping that around the beehive. That's a lot of cords and a lot of cable. I don't know about that one. And the other one that I saw, we're actually trying to modify it because I think it can be cool. And I'm not really big on putting feeders inside the hive because if anything happens, you can't get to it in the wintertime. And if it breaks, freezes, or cracks, I got liquid in there. But an inner frame feeder, it's got the wooden board on top of it, the 2 holes that the bees go down in the screens and drink. Drill another hole and go ahead and put a fish tank heater in there. Now your feed can stay warm and generate heat for the hive. Kind of cool what we thought about trying to keep the feed warm as well as the hive, trying to do a double thing. But as always, if the fish tank heater breaks, then you got frozen feed as well as a cold source starting to cool the hive off. So just some different things on heating if you want to try different stuff. But I think if you put your screen, you said you got one with the wood, you got one with the screen. The wood, make sure that it's deep enough that wax capping and bees that are deadfall are in there, because if they fall and they rot and it's the shallow part, it's inside the comb, they'll rot and you'll infect and get mold in your comb. That way you want a deep bottom board. That way when stuff falls, it's not laying in the comb. That way if it rots and you can't get it out in time in the springtime, it doesn't affect your comb. That's why you want deep. If you got shallow only, because some of them, you know, you might have made your own, you just might have threw a piece of plywood board down or something. If it's just that already that low bottom, make sure that you have a long a piece of 3/8" wood that you can stick in there every once in a while, turn it, and kind of pull things out. Kind of put like a hook on it so you can stick it in and kind of drag out. It's like every 9 to 11 days, if you have that entrance there and you got the little entrance, you've reduced your entrance so it's only 3 inch. You stick that stick in, you kind of turn it, that way you can pull dead bees and wax to the front door. You don't want that to build up in the bottom because dead bees will get inside those wax cappings. They'll rot, causes mold in the spring, starts affecting your comb for American foul brood. So that's one thing. On the flat boards, we flip them to deep ones and not keep the shallow. On your screen, make sure you can kind of insulate it off. And like I said, if you want to stack another box underneath it and put paper underneath it, makes another insulation barrier. In the Soviet Union, their hives aren't as wide as ours, but they're using Langstroth. They're like a 7-frame box. They're just a little narrower. And the concept is they take a 55-gallon drum and they cut the top and the bottom off. And in winterization, they just basically stick this whole drum over this beehive. The drum's got some holes. So here's the front of the beehive. The drum goes over it. There's like this much space from the hive to the drum. And then they pack newspaper all over inside this drum. So now any type of sun hits the drum warms up, heating the newspaper, making this whole insulated barrier over this beehive. The bees can fly out through the drum and out and back into the drum. And when the summer comes, they just pull the drums up, grab all the newspaper, and the newspaper is used for smoker fuel. So that's another insulated barrier. Hopefully the condensation idea of opening up the tube a little bit, get some airflow, and working with your quilting box helps you, Cooper. Hopefully, if you got any more questions, let me know.
Cooper actually wrote something there.
Yeah, he says I've had both hives down to the 3-inch opening right now, and that's you're supposed to. In fact, my beehives usually always are that way. I don't ever open them up. I've never seen a tree with big openings. I haven't seen that. So all mine are usually 3-inch openings, and my beehives are all medium boxes, and each medium box has a 1/2-inch hole in it. So there's 3 deeps, 1/2-inch hole, 1/2-inch hole, 1/2-inch hole, and a little 3-inch hole at the bottom, and that's year round for me.
Yeah, I've got, this is Cooper again.
Yeah.
I've got on the one hive with the quilting box right now, I have 2 deeps and 1 medium. The medium's basically packed full of honey. I got in there a week ago and got down into the deeps, and they had a decent amount of brood. Everything was kind of centralized in the hive, but about 3 or 4 weeks before that, I had to kind of do a pretty major clean out because they had built some like a wall of comb on one side of the box, and so I did some work. But anyways, I've got a couple outer frames on both deeps that are basically they're drawn comb, but they don't really have anything packed in them, and so it seems to be like a place for hive beetles and other things to kind of hang out. So
Okay.
I was wondering, do I pull those frames for the winter and just, leave that space void, or?
Okay, so in your beehive, the outer frames should be full capped honey frames, right? Because each one of those in a deep box, each one of those is roughly 6 pounds of honey. So basically, if you put those 2 frames in, you're putting in 12 pounds of honey in that feeder box. And that's a lot of feed for those bees. So, and that's also insulation barrier. So that way you have the space between the hives as the sun hits, that warms them all up. Empty space that's not being used. So if you have, you said drawn out comb, make your fondant and take your drawn out comb and just kind of rub it in the drawn out comb. Now you don't have to put fondant cake in or anything. You just fill those up and stick them back in. And now you've got feed in there, and you're using pre-drawn comb, and you're not have to waste space. Empty space is bad space. So if you have 2 deeps, and this frame's not working, and this frame's not working, and this frame's not working, that's 4 frames. Out of a 9-frame box, that's 1 whole half of a brood box, man. So taking those out and kind of really calculate what you got, you could actually compact those bees down into a smaller box, making a massive amount of bees. Yes, you're going to have to feed them because there's not going to be enough feed in that small box, but they're going to winterize better because there's more bees to stay warm. So if the colony's warm and they've got enough feed, they make it. Next spring when you come out, remember when you open that hive up that made it, it's going to be like a can of shaken beer. it's going to come out. That's a split. So if you compact those bees, you can actually do more splits in the springtime because there's going to be more generation in there and they got to move. Or you just throw another box on and they just go right up. And if you're throwing in already drawn comb in the box, they move right up and she can start laying and start off faster, quicker. But if you got two deeps, you got an empty frame and an empty frame, an empty frame, an empty frame, and they're not doing nothing, that's 4 frames. If you're using spacers in your hive, a 10 frame is now 9. You basically almost eliminated half a hive by pulling those out. That's less space for the bees to heat, right? Michael Bush is big on telling people that if the bees can't afford the apartment, they get evicted, right? So if the apartment's too big for them to keep warm, they'll never eat. They can't afford to live there. So I'm a big fan on if it's not necessary, you get it out unless you're growing the colony. Right now we're downsizing the colony to keep it warm. So Cooper, you might want to evaluate that if there's no honey 2 to 3 inch around the frame sides that still have brood, get rid of them. Right, because you can always just even uncap those and spin those and use that for residual food. There's no sense in just having a little bit of honey on a frame when I can just take that, spin it off, and add it to fondant. I'm still going to feed it back to them. I'm eliminating the space to keep them warm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I started after that last inspection and putting the quilting box on. I started feeding them. Like they've gone through about a quart and a half of feed. It's like 2 to 1. Okay. So they're taking it in pretty fast, it seems like. So I guess I'm gonna have to see where they've put it and how much they've put back.
Yeah, and if it's still warm enough to do an inspection, that's what you see if they're turning it into a nectar storage or not.
Yeah.
Because if they're turning it into, if it's warm enough to where they're storing it, just let them peter off a little bit.
Yeah, we've been in the mid-70s almost every day, and then I've got where the boxes are. They get morning and southern sun, so they've pretty much been in the sun all day. So they get they've been really active almost every day.
What's your nectar flow? Do you have goldenrod or sunflower right now?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of stuff still kind of bloomed.
Yeah, I would just see if they're using that to. Man, is she still laying brood? Are you seeing eggs?
Last Saturday there was larvae still in there. I mean, there was capped brood and larvae.
Keep feeding them because they need to cap that larva off then.
Yep.
Right, because that's what's going to happen as soon as they lose food. If they still have open larvae and no food, right, that stuff's going to cause you rot because they won't be able to keep it warm.
They already kicked all the drones out.
So they're calling, yeah. So that's a good sign. On your entranceway, you said it's reduced. Have they put any propolis in the front of that little reducer to just make like archways? Is there any archways? Do you see any archway movement at all?
They haven't done that much, but I had the whole bottom opened at one point, and then I took it down to the smaller opening. Now they have the openings because I have holes in the front of like the deep and the super. And they have started kind of closing those holes off a little bit.
Okay. When that starts happening, right, you're within 20 to 30 days of snow.
Yeah, and that's about right for here too. I mean, I've seen snow fly second week of November, no problem.
When I start seeing the archway, I got 14 days until I see the first snow. After observing my bees, as soon as I see that first archway of propolis, I'm going to see snow in 14 days. It's never been wrong, and it's not always like a blizzard snow. It's usually our first snow. As soon as I see that first archway in any of those hives, I got 14 days, and I'm going to get snow on the ground. It's not. I mean, it's going to probably be gone by the end of the day or whatever. But it's been pretty accurate that I know that when I start seeing that. So if you're starting to see that, yeah, really keep feeding them. See if they cap off that brood because you don't want that to winter in there. Because if they can't keep the brood warm when they cluster, they can't keep that stuff rots. And freeze outs only work, for I think it's 42 days if you're doing freeze colonies. So if you're pulling out brood and you're sticking it in a ice chest to keep them from maturing fat, hatching, you only got 40 days. You only got like one cycle before you got to put those back in before they're needed to be warm and hatch, or you flash froze those two and they're dead. So I mean, you got to make sure that they feed and cap that brood, or you're going to be removing lots of, because if they can't keep the brood warm, you're going to have dead meat smell in spring.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. And Cooper, you have goldenrod going right now?
I don't have much on my property, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some nearby. I mean, I've got a lot of hay fields and, farm, basically pasture land around me. So.
Right on. I just right now, I had a guy in Pennsylvania call me. He goes, man, I think I already got foul brood. I was like, well, how do you know? He says, oh, it smells so bad. And I said, could you take a picture of the flowers around him? He goes, oh, man, you should see these flowers. It was goldenrod. And I said, smells like stinky gym socks. He goes, yeah. And I goes, yeah, that's not American foul brood, dude. That's goldenrod. Goldenrod, after it's been digested stuff, man, your beehive will stink. It stinks bad.
Nice.
Great taste in honey, though. And the goldenrod itself smells sweet when you smell it. But as soon as they make honey out of it, it smells like a dirty feet smell. And you might think you have American foul brood, but you don't. It's just the goldenrod itself. You have anybody else that want any questions? Bella, Cooper, Jerry.
So, Mike, I wanted to show everybody something here real quick. This is on the thrive3.com. So we have the beekeeping, systems of beekeeping club here. So you just go to clubs and then systems of beekeeping. And then inside there, it's a very community-oriented application for the course. And as you can see, here's those documents, the free documents are all in there. So there's videos, you can ask questions and get answers from Mike, and other people can answer questions as well, and you can rate which question or which answer answered your question. But under files here, you can also submit files. If you have files that you want to share too, you just click submit a file and you can put yours up, but here's all the ones that Michael was talking about today as well. So just wanted to share that resource is there for everybody. It is an invite-only system, but if you go to, you can email me or Mike, we'll get you invites. Or if you go to thrive3.com, you can click request an invite, and we'll get you in there.
And this Thrive Network is part of the EDGE method. It's the last part. This is how you evaluate your beekeeping, how everybody tells you what they're going through. Remember, you're going to ask one beekeeper a question, you're going to get his answer. You ask 50 beekeepers their question, you're going to get 100 different answers because they probably know 2 different ways. So you're going to get a mass amount of information. By taking this program, we've isolated things down to get you into a practical guide set. So when you start doing your application of that practical guide set, and I always like using queening because everybody wants to learn how to make queens. If you're grafting and you're talking about grafting, you're going to have one guy tell you, well, these are the types of tools I use and why. And you're going to have another guy tell you these types of tools and why. I'll show you the method, but then you're going to have people tell you, I put them right in directly into cups. We put them directly into open cells. The education method at the end, I think, enhances a lot more, because if it's not working for you, you might have just found out it might have been just the one thing you were doing wrong because another guy had the same problem. And this is that education method. If I educate you on it and I demonstrate it and you perform it and we evaluate it, eventually the system becomes more in tune for you, not for me. Because it's going to be in tune for me after I get my system going too. Right? And I'll be able to compare my system with your system. We might be using the same system, right, at 2 different locations, right, describing way different things. And it makes it so more intricate because my bees are Dorfus bees. They're the large ones from India, right? They're 7.4 millimeter. They're huge. Most people are trying to downsize their bees to 4.2 millimeter, which is the original bee. The lowest one's got a 4.7. Using the same beekeeping method, same hives. The little bees are doing way more comb building than my bigger bees. Why? Well, I absolutely moved my bigger bees to a location they never thrive at. But they're working on a system that works We can describe them. We can talk about them, the different bees. I think the Thrive thing about talking about all the different stuff is going to help you guys out so much. You're going to be able to see micro bees to many different types of honeybees to different types of hives. I think the educational method on this Thrive Network is going to burst out, and hopefully that another group that's called Bees Without Borders picks this up, because then you're going to have beekeepers from all over the world that are going to be able to talk and help educate each other to get beekeeping and food production to other places of the world. And that's the one other thing is we want to get other people to understand that it's not about honey production, it's about food production. Food production is our #1 reason why we became beekeepers. Making mead's awesome, but I tell you what, making mead with a whole bunch of varieties of fruits is way more awesome. So the food production is the most important. That's why we want to get this out here.
Hey, Mike, are we doing this again next week? Or do you have something going
next week? Let me look at my calendar here.
I think we had it scheduled for next week, but I'm not sure if the
was it on the 24th or the 25th?
Let's see. It was Friday.
So the 27th. So mine's wrong. Mine says the 25th. So on the 27th. Yeah, same time, same station.
Let's see. October 27th. So I have Friday, October 27th is the next one.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll come back on. If you guys belong to local beekeeper networks and clubs, have them tune in. Have them shoot questions that we're not even talking about. Right? Have them debunk me. Right? Have a guy come on and that doesn't like me. If you talk to somebody that doesn't like, have them come on. Right? Man, I'm willing to learn just as much as you are. And if you get somebody from your beekeeping club that thinks I'm full of crap, and they can show me where I'm full of crap, man, I want to learn that. I spent a lot of money to learn what I learned. I've been around the world to learn what I learned, and I have a lot of things that are really odd. Right now, the biggest thing, and I've got the biggest compliment from the Federation of Beekeepers, is the oleic acid used from rhubarb. Natural method of beekeeping. Been around since 906 AD. Using oleic acid from rhubarb leaves. Actually, it was usually used from spinach originally. Found out rhubarb is a higher concentrate after I did studies and turned my information into Bayer Corporation. Natural methods, right? I learned that in Turkey. It's not even applied here. And beekeepers right now are blown away by the preventative maintenance by using it. Does it work? Shit, yeah, it works, man. I've proven it. I have national studies by Bayer and Monsanto that say, well, you could just buy an enhanced formula of it from us. You don't need to grind up rhubarb. That's a lot of work. We sell it. You might, right? But I found that out by working with other beekeepers that were telling me Epistan and terramycin's bullshit. It's what we use here in America. And they're like, yeah, but we've been using this for hundreds of years. We don't have mites. And how he proved it to me was the guy took me out and he says, why do wasps and hornets eat the rhubarb leaves? I said, because they make their nest out of it. He goes, yeah. Why does their nest not have mites? Because it's always releasing the oleic acid. Kind of really simple project right there, isn't it? I was like, wow. And he goes, now watch. You see after the wasp and hornets chew on these rhubarb leaves, you see how these little bees come in and roll in it? They have an asymbiotic relationship. The hornets are chewing up the leaves, releasing the acid, and the bees are coming in and doing their own treatment as they come in to get water off the rhubarb leaves. It works. It's a system. It works. It's verifiable. Like I said, if you got somebody that wants to talk, that wants to know something from a beekeeping organization or a new skill from one of your clubs that you guys are trying to think about, man, hit me up. I'll find out. I'll reach out all over to help you out, right? We'll write it down. We'll get it on another segment. I'll call it Josiah. He'll come down and we'll film that. We'll put it out. I'll test it. I'm willing to test. I'll throw phones in a beehive. I don't care. I've done it. So yeah, if you guys have information that you want, talk to some other beekeepers. Really see what you want to investigate. I'm here to help you. Right? I can keep bees. Right? I've lost lots of bees and I learned to regrow them. That's what I want you to do, is that when you feel a loss, it's not a huge loss, man, that because you're going to have them. I have them. The objects only have like a 10 to 15% loss, not a 50 to 70, because that sucks. That's an investment that you lost. And beekeeping is not cheap. That's the first thing people ask me is like, what's it like to be a beekeeper? I don't know, talk to a banker. Get a loan. It's not cheap. Beekeeping hobby's not cheap. It's not something you just jump into. So I thought I'd put that out there. It says, by the way, I'm putting together a YouTube video on my quilting box construction. Midwest Home Solution. Gotta go. Thanks. Kids are ready for bed. Have a good night. And want to see it. Free information, man, is a key vital essence for you to build something better. This was nothing but your time to tune in to try to get some. Bella, thanks for tuning in. Tell us everything about Arizona, about what you do there, how you're using your water jugs, stuff like that. That's right. That's super cool. Way to think outside the box. Way to be a better beekeeper. Right. That's helping your girls make it. And I'm, not a lot of people are going to go in and pull queens out to change Africanization. So thumbs up to you. I mean, I'm going to give you that right there. Pollen points for Bella.
Right. Thanks, Mike. In Arizona, there's so little beekeepers because the Africanization came in that 10 years ago, I had very little, if any, support. So I've learned everything just trying and what seemed logical. And I appreciate you doing what you're doing now and helping me and being somebody that I can send other people to too when I have all kinds of calls all the time every week.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm waiting for my daughter to kind of move back in. She left, went to college, came back, learned her American Sign Language. I'm hoping her to get her back in so she can start going through these emails and kind of breaking them down. Sometimes I get an email and I'll get 40 of them. They're all almost the same question. So then you got to write a general topic, and then you got to get back and mail that general topic back to 40 different people. So it becomes time consuming. So yeah, I totally understand when it comes to answering questions, but way to reach out and help your community. Right, it's the only way we're going to help out each other is by giving a hand up. Right, it's nothing to give out a little information. If it's wrong, tell me. I'm only going with what I've seen, what I know, and what I can try. And the water jet thing that you're talking about, cooling the hives, man, that's outside the box thinking, and that's what we need. That's what we need.
Alrighty, thanks.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you for tuning in.
Sure.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week. Same time, same URL, same link if you want to add it to your calendar.
All right. Be the change. That's what we need. Be the change.
Alrighty. Josiah, how do I add it to my calendar?
Just go to, I was just saying, go to your calendar and just create an event.
Okay. I thought I could magically link everything.
It's also on ThriveThru. If you get onto ThriveThru and go to the calendar thing, it's listed on there as well.
Okay, I just caught you because I was on Facebook and you posted you were going up, so that's how I caught you tonight.
Oh, okay.
Right on. We'll see you next time. Thank you guys very much. See you, Sandra. We'll see you later, Josiah.